Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Taste of Magic. This is going to be a show where we talk about the flavor of Magic the Gathering. This week, I'm going to be talking about Planechase 2012. And since my show was not around when the first Planechase set came out, I'm also going to be talking about the original Planechase set, which came out in 2009. The big news with Planechase 2012 is the addition of a new card type called Phenomena. Phenomena cards are shuffled into your planes deck, and you encounter them on your way to a new plane. They all have some kind of effect that happens before you planeswalk. These effects can be big effects like destroying all creatures on the battlefield, or they can be kind of crazy effects like reveal the top two plane cards of your planes deck and you planeswalk to both of them at the same time. I'd like to focus more on the actual playing cards though, because that's where the flavor really is. So I'm going to start talking about the planes that we have seen in the game recently, and then I'm going to go backwards. So the first plane we're going to be talking about is Innistrad. It's the plane that we just went to. We just finished up Innistrad Black with Avacyn Restored. And Innistrad is a great place to start because it's a set where the flavor of Magic and the mechanics of Magic really meld very well together. So the first Plains card that we're going to be talking about is Gavany. Gavany is the main human community on Innistrad. It's featured on cards like Gavany Township. Gavany gives all creatures vigilance, and in addition to that, when you roll the chaos symbol, all your creatures become indestructible till the end of turn. So this is really showing the human side of Innistrad, where the humans have to pretty much face so much in their everyday life that they've just become very resilient, which I think this card really shows. This card is also great because obviously it gives all your creatures vigilance. Great if you planeswalk to it before combat. If you planeswalk to it after combat, you have to wait till your next turn before you really can take advantage of it. So that's Gavany. Next, we're going to be talking about Kessig. Kessig is the wooded area where there's some farmlands and there's a few human settlements. This is where most of the werewolves come from in Innistrad. This card pretty much works like Moon Mist, where it prevents all combat damage that would be dealt by non-werewolf creatures. And when you roll the chaos symbol, all your creatures gain the werewolf type, and in addition to that, they get a +2/+2 till the end of turn. So this is another card that, is dealing with combat. So you don't have to worry about your opponents doing damage to your creatures when it's not their turn, because you can only roll the planar die as a sorcery effect, which means that unless they actually have a werewolf, which most likely they won't because you don't run them to them all that much, you'll be having the only creatures doing combat damage if you roll that chaos symbol. So you'll be winning a lot of the combats with this card. The third Planechase card that we're going to be talking about from Innistrad is Nephalia, which is the coastal region of Innistrad. This is where there's humans, geists, and zombies. Uh, Really, this is the milling card of the four Innistrad Plains cards. There was a strong mill theme in Innistrad. Obviously, there was also Flashback, which came back from Odyssey and Time Spiral Block, which helps if you have cards in your graveyard. So the way it works is at the end of each player's turn, they put the top 7 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then they get a random card from their graveyard back to their hand. This is a great this is just a great plane to be on if you happen to be playing flashback cards. If you're playing a self-milling deck, you happen to have Splinter Fright, things things like that. If you are playing a dredge deck, this might be good to be a good plane to be on. If you roll the chaos symbol, then you get to choose target card out of your graveyard and return it to your hand, which that's pretty nice. But obviously, whenever you roll the die, you have a chance of just planeswalking away. So it is what it is. Finally, the last playing card that we're going to be talking about for Innistrad is Stensia. Stensia is the mountain region of Innistrad, where the vampire families live. Something out of a Bram Stoker novel. Most notably, the vampire families include the Markovs, I believe the Rakish are another family. The Markovs, the most notable Markov being Soren Markov. So this card pretty much gives all creatures the vampire ability, which was taken from the Sliths of Mirrodin, where they get +1/+1 counter whenever they deal damage to a player. This is not limited to combat damage. It is any damage, but it is limited to once per turn. So if you roll the chaos symbol, then creatures you control get the Tim ability to tap and deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So you can pretty much just tap your creatures, deal damage to your opponents, and then put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. You can also do damage to their creatures if you want. You won't get the +1/+1 counter, but you will be able to just do damage to them, which is pretty useful sometimes. So with this plane, you really want to have a lot of creatures out to really gain the benefit from the chaos symbol. If you happen to go to that plane, and hopefully your creatures don't have summoning sickness. So that's all the planes for Innistrad. Of course, all 4 of these cards are from Planechase 2012, not the 2009 version. And these are some pretty good cards. I like them. I think that Innistrad is very well represented in these 4 cards. You got your human playing card, your vampire playing card, your werewolf playing card, and also your graveyard playing card. Obviously, there could be a Geist or possibly a zombie playing card. I'd also like to see if we go back to Innistrad or we go back to Planechase. I think they should also be a Angel playing card, or maybe a Demon playing card, or maybe they could combine both of them into one. They could also possibly use the Undying mechanic. That might not have even been around when these cards were being designed, so that could be why it wasn't used. Of course, Persist was never put onto a plain card to my knowledge, so that might be as well. So we're done talking about Innistrad for today. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about New Phyrexia and Zendikar. And I'm going to go all the way back to Arabian Nights, talking about the different planes and the cards that pertain to those planes. So in the future, I'd like to do some episodes where I talk about the Magic storyline and focus on particular characters, planes, maybe do some plane profiles or planeswalker profiles. Feel free to write in the comments what you think I should be talking about on this show to explain the flavor of Magic. And I will see you in future episodes. Thank you for joining me.